Good morning, Rabboisai. Today's Shira is sponsored by Zevi's parents in honor of Zevi's class Rebbe, Rabbi Yeshaya Kohn, an outstanding mechanech who is part of MDY and who inspires his young talmidim each day at Torah Temimah, London. Yishkoyach. By the famous Seth Hellman. Oh, maybe it's today. Okay, that's tomorrow. Next. Sponsored by the BPP, which stands for Back Porch Prayer. Refuah Shelemah bקרוב, Teaneck, Bergenfield. For Refuah Shelemah, for Shira Bas Devorah Leah, mother of 5 from Bergenfield, who suddenly collapsed and had emergency brain surgery with a brain bleed. She really needs our tefillot. Her husband is a doctor who has helped save so many people over the last year with corona and otherwise. And now, him and his family really need our tefillot. Wow. Shira Bas Devorah Leah, Refuah Shelemah. And by the famous Avi Mandelbaum, who sponsored yesterday, in honor of my wife, Michal Mandelbaum's 40th birthday. Michal is the woman who donated a kidney, tzaddikus. And the Refuah Shelemah for Elazer Ben Elcha, with a K, for a complete Refuah Shelemah by the Kamionski and Zauderer families. Wow. Another young guy needs refuah bקרוב. I just want to read this real quickly. Noam Fix, everybody knows Noam Fix. He is the owner of Tom and Devorah. And he wrote on the group, Chesed opportunity. I have a staff member who is interviewing the U.S. for me. He didn't go to every year he goes to America to interview the girls. He's doing it all on Zoom. And now he sent a woman from his place. And she's stuck there. She's an Israeli citizen and currently stuck in the U.S. She's a single mom and her kids are here in Israel. But that's a different story. She was supposed to return to Israel last Friday, but due to the border shutdown, wasn't allowed back in. Her health insurance lapsed and needs to see an ENT doctor. By the way, my father is an ENT doctor, but that's in Chicago. If you know someone that would be willing to help and do some pro bono work, that would be great help. Private message me. It's taken care of. The reason why I'm saying this is because some tzaddik from our chabura, without asking any questions, sends in his credit card, a picture of his credit card, says, go do whatever you need. So Noam calls up the guy, says, what's going on? He says, he's a chassidish guy, he says, you have to chaparan, Rabbi Yisai. We're only here for a very short time, chaparan. Once we're at this, and chesed, so somebody by the name of Dr. Mark Berkson, he once sent in an email.
That guy's actually anonymous.
Yeah, he likes to remain anonymous. He is. I know you're ridiculously busy, but he lost his job for another doctor. COVID made it difficult for certain docs to stay in business. If it's possible to reach out to the Oilam in New Jersey to see if someone would be interested in partnering with me, I'm thinking a PT or orthopedic group. Thanks, Mark. So if anybody wants to do chesed, Mark Berkson is looking for a job. Okay, I guess we are very late. Okay, one more maybe. This is from the Engelmans from Lakewood. We very much enjoy Reb Eli's shir. He's doing a big service to Klall Yisrael. May Hashem bless him and the entire MDY family. They should be able to continue to spread Torah. We also like the discussion that goes on at the end of the shir. We watch this on YouTube and it always gets cut off. Please see what you can do to let it run. It makes you feel like one of the family. You hear? Gershon, it makes you feel like one of the family when you hear that discussion at the end. All the best. The Engelmans from Lakewood. Fine. We'll do the rest later. Last night was a tremendous simcha for Reb Zalman Twersky. He's an amazing individual, a Balmidas, a Talmud Chacham. I got to know him very well in Chicago. Here he is. He's a Lubavitcher Chassid, one of the ones remaining with the Shribimals. He's a Chernobyl Chassid originally. His family went Lubavitch, became Lubavitch, and here's the famous Shlomi Klein. Here is Yisrael Shalitsky at the Chassid. Look, it's a mishpacha. That's it. When the mishpacha, somebody in the mishpacha gets married, you go. Who else do we have? We have Mordechai Ashkenazi after the Shini Hashem. And we have Akiva Zeigler and Yisrael Goldstein, of course, together with Zalman. Tremendous. All right. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to see the mishpacha. Mazel tov. Should see a lot of nachas. So we're starting a brand new Mishnah, brand new Masechta, Daf Ayin Hey Amud Beis. If you have no idea what's flying, today is a great day to start. It's a brand new start. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Naga bechar soishal tanor. I want to read this email I got the other day, but I don't have time for it, obviously. The guy says, in short, I'll read it, Be'ezer Hashem, that he's watched a lot of movies when he was younger, and he has a lot of charata, and he always wondered, how is he going to take those images of tumah out of his head? And he says, this is it. He says, please send more gory pictures, more Korban Pesach pictures. He said he was just like spacing out, and all of a sudden this flash picture of a Korban Pesach flash. He says, oh, that's the tikkun. He's no longer flashing old movies, he's flashing. Okay, anyway. Here it is. You take the Korban Pesach. This is, some person did no, I got 2 emails about this. Yes, Noam. Shalom Aleichem, Noam, Mazel Tov, Adina Bracha. Why, what a name, Noam. Yeah. What are you saying?
Okay, now just before you get started, very quickly, I just want to let you know that somebody just now PM'd me on the chat saying I can get you Southwest points to get her back and forth to Chicago to see your father.
Really? If that's what she needs, she should go to my father-in-law. We'll arrange it. It's not about money, it's about time. Does she like to save $100 to go in America? But if it's a massive thing.
I'm just showing you how to,
Oh, you're just showing the chesed. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, a couple people were wondering about this. Is this a Korban Pesach? No, because it looks like a very old sheep. I asked the professional. He said, no, this is like 3-4 years old. It has to be a year old. Fine. But he takes this Korban Pesach, puts it into the pit, and it touches the pit. Now, what's the issue? The issue is that when you roast the Korban Pesach, it has to be tzliesh. It has to be from the fire, and not from the heat that comes off the actual earthenware. So what do you do? So there's an actual picture. There's two gedarim here. One is to peel a very thin layer of skin, and as we're going to see soon, the next one is a bit more, a finger breadth. Notav meirotvoy al acheres v'chazar elav. A bit of the juice of the Korban Pesach hits the wall of the oven and comes back and hits the Korban Pesach. Yitelos mekayma, because now it has heat off the oven. And memela, you don't just do a klipa, you do mekayma, you have to do a finger's worth. So it's a little bit deeper. We're concerned that it goes deep into the animal. Notaf, by the way, it's my duty to bring all the interesting halachas. Now, this one is not negeh to the daf at all, but I did see it on the daf, so I'll say it over because it was amazing. I'm not saying that one should pass on halacha like this because I can't understand it, but I'm just throwing it out there. If this is negeh l'maisa, ask your local rabbi. The halacha is if somebody has a tattoo, you're only over a deraisa when you put it on, but you're not over every minute that you have it. So now it becomes about tshuva, he wants to remove it. But there's another halacha. It's asur to be chayvel beguf. You're not allowed to make damage to your body. So you're allowed to go, okay, laser is one thing. But let's say you have to go deep in and cut it out, let's say. Are you allowed to do it? Rabbi Yashiv Paskins, you are permitted, because that's not considered damaging your body, because you are helping your body. You have a toyeva on yourself. But here comes the crazy, wild halacha. Everybody would say the same thing, I'm sure. A woman is concerned, she lives in a non-Jewish neighborhood, she's concerned her son will date non-Jews. She has a great idea. She'll tattoo a Magen David on his arm. And all the non-Jews will see it, they'll run away from him. Is he permitted to l'chatchila put a tattoo on his arm? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, it's mutter. Yes, it's mutter. I don't understand it at all. But I'm just saying it, I'm throwing it out there. And he brings a raya from Reb Chaim Pelagi that was a mamzer born in the neighborhood. He took the kid and plastered a tattoo of a mamzer, on his forehead. So nobody marries this guy. So to take away from Israel, okay, I'm just throwing it out there. What does that have to do with this mission? Almost nothing. But it says that you peel off the tattoo. Fine. Next. I hope we're not late into Shabbos because of that vart. But I thought it was a great, wild halacha. What? Says the Mishnah. Nothing merotve ala soilas. Some of this juice falls onto flour that's boiling hot. Yikmoitzes mekaymai. Now, I need to remove the flour. I need to take out like a kmitza like you do in the Beis Hamikdash, a whole handful, deep down. Sachar b'shem and truma. If you smear oil of truma, where my stuff? Oh, here. Truma we all know, but we could go into it soon. But once we mention the word truma, we got to go to the chart. Sorry. Person has produce, he has to take 2% and give it to the kohen. It's called truma. Then he takes 10% after that from the 98% that's left. He gives 10% to the lady. He has oil that belongs to the kohen, and he smears his korban pesach with it. Im chabur's kohanim yechelu. What? Marinated. No, sachay from the top. Yeah, okay, marinated is more of a to put on top. Marinate is to let it soak in there. Im chabur's kohanim, if it's their kohanim anyways, they own it. Great, let them eat it. Im shal Yisrael, but if the group is a bunch of Yisraelim, im chayu yidichenu. If it's raw, it doesn't absorb, just wash it right off with water. Im tzalihu, but if it's already roasted animal could absorb the oil. Yikloif esachitza, and he must remove the outer layer. So, I have actually what we call, let me see if I can find it. Oh, look at this. I have a klotz kasha. Here's a klotz kasha. What? This is not an amoris. Not to be confused with an amoris. This is a klotz kasha. This guy already wears tzitzis, tchelis, the whole thing. If there's oil for kohanim, peel it off and give whatever you're peeling off to the kohanim. Why are you throwing it into the garbage? Anybody? It's a massive klotz kasha. Why? No, not Cholei Yisrael. Close. Cholei Yisrael means people that can't chew. You mean Shaloi Limenuyav. Very good. It's for a different group. You can't just give it to a kohen. Okay, fine. I just want to, I know everybody knows the answer. Just, we need to remember this. You have to be part of the group. Fine. If you have a kohen in your group, great, give it to him. That's what it says in the Mishnah. If they're kohanim, you give it to Yoichelu.
Right now the MDY group is busy talking about where they're going to put their MDY tattoos.
I knew I could get them. This is a tough sugya. I just threw them off a little bit. By the time we're done with the sugya, they'll come back. No, it's not tough at all. Fine. Yeah. Zot Gemara, the Mishnah. Sachar b'shemen shel meiser sheni. Meiser sheni is 10% that's left you give to yourself, but you have to bring it to the Yerushalayim. So you take the meiser sheni oil, you bring it to the Yerushalayim. You can do whatever you want. You can drink it yourself. 10% of whatever you own. Lo yasenu damim, but you cannot go out and sell it in Yerushalayim. Once you get to Yerushalayim, you cannot sell meiser sheni. Where do you sell meiser sheni? When you're home. You could convert it to money and bring that money to Yerushalayim. But once you're in Yerushalayim with meiser sheni, you cannot sell it. You can't say, oh, by the way, Rabbi Yeshaya, okay, it's very good that you gave me 2 shekel for your korban pesach, but now I have to charge you extra 50 shekel for the oil. You can't do that. Great, says the Gemara. Itmar. We're going to beautiful sugyas that are negiyah to day-to-day life, and halachas l'maisas even. Itmar, cham l'toicham. If you have 2 products, one is a aser, one is a mutter. One is milk, one is meat. Dairy and fleishiks. Cham l'toicham. If both of them are hot and they mix into each other, there's no question that they absorb from each other. 2 colds, not a problem. They don't absorb at all, great. Here's the machloikis. Cham l'toicham, v'tzoinen l'toicham. Hot into cold, cold into hot. The answer to this would be, which one is stronger? And how do we know which one is stronger? It's either the upper one or the lower one, but it's never the hot and the cold. It's an upper one or a lower one, regardless if it's hot or cold. Rav Amar Ila Govar, the upper one wins. Ushmol Amar Tato Govar, the lower one is always the stronger one. Now, real quickly, I know Avi Mandelbaum was a scientist or whatever he is, a chemist. He's sitting here and scratching his head. What is going on? The night that you ask the question, take a pot of soup and take something else and go like this. You do a little experiment, you'll know which one is stronger, which one is going to be, who is the bottom one going to overcome. So Rabbi Yashav, so these are things that we really have to go in deep, and it's not the place and the time. But I'll just give you a little hint to something that you can think about. Rabbi Yashav says that we're not talking about what's hot and what's cold. We're talking about what's stronger halachically. In other words, what's mevatel what. And that's the shayla here. Of course, you can make an experiment and see one is hotter than the other, and the other one is gonna fine. That's one thing. Ushmul Amar Tato Govar, it's the bottom one. Tanan. Not of Merotvai. Now we're gonna have Baruch Hashem. We have the same sugya twice in a row exactly, and we're gonna have this twice on this daf. So that's why this amud is very easy. Not of Merotvai alacheres. We said in the Mishnah, if some of the liquid from the animal. Gravy. Flies out of the animal and hits the earthenware, and then it bounces back. You have to peel it off. Says the Gemara, let me show you the picture that I made here. Not a big deal, but here you go. Here you have an animal, the carbon, and the gravy drips down and hits the kli cheres, earthenware. The Gemara understands it's a cold plate, let's say. A cold piece of earthenware. The upper guy wins. Who's the upper guy in this case? The animal. That's why when it bounces back, I have to remove some of the skin. Why? Because he wins. This animal, which is hot, wins. So if he's hot, he hits a cold plate. The Gemara explains. The azal right of miratach leila cheres, v'hodar cheres miratach leila right of. Here, Avi Mandelbaum is going to be scratching his head again. The heat, the hot gravy hits the plate. It goes into the plate. And now it transfers some of the energy into the plate. Some of the heat goes into the plate. Now the plate gives back some of the heat to it. In other words, it doesn't reheat it doesn't add heat, but it gives some of its own energy, and that goes back into the animal, and now the animal, turns out, is not being cooked bitzli eish, but rather from the plate. Now here, once again, Rabbi Yashiv says a beautiful thing. You can find this in Rabbi Yashiv's Sefer. Not in the back of the Masifta or anything like that. What's going on? It hits the plate, but the plate is adding. It can't add anything. Everybody understands the plate is not adding. So Rabbi Yashiv says a beautiful idea again. He says, think of it as one of those, what do they call those soups? You know that you manachama, you put in instant soups. You pour in water, you let it seep there for 5 minutes, then it's ready to eat. In other words, there are things that don't have to be on the oven in order to cook up. So let's say you boil something up and it's noodles. Okay, noodles is a good idea. It's 99% cooked, but not there. You take it off the fire, what's going to happen? It's going to cook by itself. So it's almost there, right? It's almost there. So you take something that's 99% cooked and it hits the plate. Now that plate added that 1%. It took the heat from what it got, it gave it its own heat and pushed back, and it made it 1%. And memela, that's the problem here. Okay, something to think about. So now the Korban Pesach is being cooked from the heat of the plate. That works fine if we go by the upper guy. Not from something else. But according to Shmuel, that the plate wins, it's always the bottom. The plate is cold. So it's going to beat the hot gravy. The hot gravy hits the plate wins. According to Rabbi Yashiv, it doesn't mean that it literally became cold. It means that halachically it wins. So then why, when it bounces back to the animal, you're talking about something that's already cold, and cold is not matrif, the Korban Pesach? Says the Gemara, in a second, we're going to ask the same exact question, and we're going to have the same exact answer, but in a different case of the Mishnah, the one of hot flour. Over there, we're talking about the flour is hot. So here too, the plate is hot. Or we're talking about the oven itself. The oven made out of, this oven, this guy is boiling hot. So Mamela, it adds the Tnan, Nadav Mirotvoi ala Soilis. What's the case? Next case. Nadav Mirotvoi ala Soilis Ikmitzis Mekoimai. So, if this plate is not a plate, it's flour. Again, the gravy hit the flour. And what do? You have to remove the flour. You can't eat the flour because it's cooked up by the gravy. I thought it's cold. If the top one wins the hot Pesach, that's why the bottom needs to be removed. It heats up the flour. And the flour, in return, heats up the gravy and sends it back to the animal. And it heats up the Korban Pesach. It's word for word that we said before. It comes out that you're cooking the Korban Pesach with flour and not with fire. But according to Shmuel, that the flour on the bottom beats the animal on top. So now the flour is cold. It cooled it off. Rashi is not goyers the next words. And here he says it's teretz besoiles roitachas. We're talking about the hot flour. Tnan. Sochi b'shemen shel truma. So the next case in the Mishnah, the animal was smeared with oil belonging to truma. If it's kohanim, they could eat it in Shal Yisrael. If the owners of the group are Yisraelim, they can't eat truma. So what do they do? If it's a raw animal, they could just wash it off in water. It comes right off the oil. It's not absorbed into the animal. Try to put oil onto a cold, uncooked animal, just pop right off. But if it's already cooked, it absorbs. You have to remove the outer layer, even if it's cold. According to Rav, that says that the upper guy wins. That's why you just remove a little bit of the outer, because the outer you have to. No matter what wins, Rashi already explains, no matter if it's the upper or the lower, you must remove a small layer, because the Metzias is some of the treif, some of the usr touched it. Okay, so you have to remove the layer. Since it's hot, it's going to absorb. Why is it enough to just remove the outer layer? The whole thing should become usr, maybe absorbed it completely. Says the Gemara, Shanisika, when you smear oil, you baste it with some oil, the mashu b'amud avida, you just put a very, very thin layer, and that's why you take off a very thin layer of the animal. It's not enough to be absorbed completely into the animal. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kaval Seder Shmuel. Rashi says, because it says Tanya Kaval Seder Shmuel, and the Gemara only brings two rayos according to Shmuel, and not to Rav, so this is an exception to the rule. We always paskin like Rav by Yisurim. In this Gemara, we're going to paskin like Shmuel, because the Gemara brings rayos to Shmuel. And we're going to do two rayos that are identical. So hold on to the first one. We're going to repeat the second one quicker. Cham l'toy cham osir. If, that we said already, hot into hot absorbs and memela the both osir. Doesn't matter if it's milchiks and fleishiks, if it's carbon pesach and truma, whatever it is. Cham l'toy cham osir. V'chein tzoynen shenos l'toy cham osir. Oh, this is Shmuel. Tzoynen. The top is cold. It falls into the bottom, which is hot. Osir. Shmuel says it goes by the bottom, and that makes a good raya to Shmuel. But if the top one is hot, the bottom one is cold, so we go by the bottom one, which is cold. And certainly cold and cold. Mediach. All you have to do is rinse it off. The Gemara is going to explain this. What? All you have to do is rinse it off. What do you mean you rinse it off? It absorbed a little bit. Says the Gemara, klipa mia nive. At least you should at least have to take off a little bit of the, like a peel worth, a little layer. Elam, you're right. This doesn't ruin our raya though. You have to remove a layer, a small layer. Only if it's cold and cold, you have to. All you have to do is rinse it off. Okay. But the bottom line is, you see like Shmuel, that what? The bottom guy wins. Now we're going to do the same thing, again, word for word. Tanyiduch. Basar reteach. Hot meat. Shenavel cholav reteach. Right? We said, it's the same halacha. Basar b'cholav, asar mutter. Same thing. So, boiling meat that falls into boiling milk, and cold that falls into hot. Who's this? Shmuel. Asur. Shmuel says that the bottom one wins. So now that you have cold that fell into hot, it's asur. However, the reverse. If the cold is on the bottom and the bottom wins, so it's cold. It's not going to absorb. Ask the Gemara the same question we asked before. What do you mean you just rinse it off? There has to be some sort of absorption, even in a small amount. You're right. If the hot fell into cold, you're right that the cold wins, but you have to remove a small amount. But cold and cold, you don't have to remove anything, you just wash it off. But Akol Parim, you see like Shmuel, that what? The bottom guy wins. Whoever said I have to say Mazel Tov to Noam hasn't been listening to the Shira. I said, Adina Bracha. It's a gorgeous name, Lamaisa. Adina Bracha. So Mazel Tov to Noam, yeah. Oh, the bar mitzvah. Yeah, Yoni's bar mitzvah. Wow. Yeah, a lot of simchas. You see, simcha tech simcha. Mazel tov noam on Yoni's bar mitzvah. There's a lot of other stuff. Gedalia Saznik lost his grandfather, the 14-year-old from San Francisco. He's 15, right? He just had a birthday. And Andrew Glatz, who lost his father just maybe a month ago, just lost his mother. Rahman al-Islam. Andrew Glatz from Chicago. Okay.
There's another one.
Oy Yaakov Warman on the loss of a mother-in-law. But say that we have to do all these announcements before Shir. Omar Mar. The neshama should have an aliyah, everybody should have an nechama. Omar Mar. So we just learned. If cold falls into cold, all you do is rinse off. Imagine. Imagine if you salt something, it causes an isser. Well, everything has salt today. Everything. So that's what the Gemara says. The Omer Shmuel Meliach Hareu Kiriteach. We're going to get into it. Shmuel says that salting something is like boiling. Well, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, real quickly, Shulchan Aruch says that if you salt something, it's a one-direction thing. Because salt, what does salt do? Salt expels from the meat. It expels the blood from the meat. It goes outwards. So it will make something else become treif. But if you salt something, it doesn't mean that it absorbs. It does the opposite of absorbing. The Ramah qualifies that and says that's only when something's dry, but when something is liquid or moist, then that doesn't apply. Amarava. Kavosh, if something's, you hear this, Levi? What's kavosh? Marinated. Kavosh hareu kimivushal. If you marinate something in vinegar, so you take a piece of meat and there's vinegar and there's milk, then it'll go in. That's like cooking them together. What does it mean? You salted. We have to qualify this as well. It has to be so salty that it ruins the taste. But cakes also have salt. You might not feel it, but it has some salt. No, that doesn't do the job. Salt, what it's talking about, the guy goes, it's too salty. It doesn't have to be the whole world. Some people, it's salty. Says the Gemara, Ahu bar goizala. Ooh, coming to my favorite food. What's my favorite food, Rabbi Yeshaya? Anybody know? What did you say? Kuta chabavli. There's nothing better than kuta chabavli. And there's nothing better than a dead bird falling into kuta chabavli. Ahu bar goizala. There was a chicken, a chick, I should say, a small bird. The nafal lekada de kamcha. So you have fleishiks that falls into kutach. Here's a design made, beautiful piece of art by Mordechai Sapaznik. Guy's talented. Rabbi Yeshaya Shidduch. Here's sour milk, the kutach, the green. Here's a little bird coming out. First thing he did, Nebuch, is jump into the kutach. Why? It's mutter. Think about it. Why is it mutter? What's kutach made out of? What are the key ingredients, Rabbi Yeshaya? Disgusting sour milk. Disgusting moldy bread. Third ingredient, which is almost a third. Salt. Oh, it has a lot of salt. Some amela. But wait a minute. We just said that salt has to be so bad that you can't eat it, right? Omar Rava, man chakim lemishra milsa kiha ilav rav chinina bered ravim preshroinya. Only somebody smart as him could say something like this, that it's mutter. The Gaver Rabbi, who is an amazing, great man, Omar Loch, when does Shmuel say that the kutach would be a problem because it has salt, as if you just roasted it? Because it's so salty you can't eat it. But this is edible. People eat it, unfortunately, in Bavel. That's all they eat all day. It's only when the bird is raw. As we said before, something that's roasted, boy klipa, something that's roasted absorbs. So you have to remove a thin layer of lamb, or no, let's be pile. I don't know if this is true, I'm just making this up. Maybe the word pile is an elephant, which is it has a lot of cracks. If you look at its skin, it looks like maybe it comes from there, but it means that it has cracks in it. Cracks absorbs. But if it has a bunch of elephants, asur. Then it's also because it goes in and it absorbs. V'mitubal betavli asur. And if this bird already had a bunch of spices on it, the spices open up the pores. In comes the milk, whatever it is, and it becomes asur. Says the Gemara, Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis, sponsored by Kesher Nafshi, Zchus, for the struggling kids in pain of Cholei Yisrael. Ay, taka, there's a lot of them. Go out here in our neighborhood, Hashem Yirachim, what's going on? For the Refuah Shelemah, for all the Cholei Yisrael. Maybe this is all connected. The Cholei, whatever. Especially from our MDY family. Please consider joining MDY Tehillim group at tehillim.8mindaf.com. I'll call upon him. Here goes. Omer Rav. I love when Rav does this. He like drops a bomb and runs away. Omer Rav. Besar shchuto shomein. Shitzaloi and besar nevela. Don't get, this is Gishmak Sugis, Rabbi. What are you scared? Kachim. It's good stuff. You have fatty meat. What's Rav saying? Even fatty meat. Shitzloi in basar nevela kachosh. You have good kosher meat with treif meat, but it's kachosh. Kachosh means it doesn't have any fat on it, nothing. Also, my taima mepatme mehadodi. I don't know if you can see the arrows here. I made arrows. I should have made them larger. Rashi explains amazing. The fat, it's all in the same oven. You see, it's in the same oven. They're not touching each other, but the aroma from one goes into the kachosh. The fat goes into the kachosh. It boils up in the kachosh, and then exits the kachosh and goes back. Don't just think that one goes to the other. No, the kachosh has nothing to offer. Meaning, Rashi is saying here an amazing thing. Rashi is saying that if both of them are kachosh, they're mutter. It's only because one has fat, and the fat that's mutter goes into the guy that's asur. The fat that's mutter becomes asur, then returns a return trip, and makes the fat guy asur.
They put in ovens. They throw in chunks of
Different wood, the aroma wood, fat into the oven, and it goes into the animal. So let me ask you, Shiloh. What if this fat guy? What if this kachosh was a chazer? Mamish chazer, treif chazer. Okay, but look what Levi says. Levi Omar, afilu basa shchuta kachosh shitzolim basa nevela shamein. Do the opposite. The kosher has nothing to offer, and the treif is fat of the fat. So you think so much fat, like you just said, you throw some fat into the oven, it makes the kosher asur mutter. No, so what if this was pig? It's mutter, pig. He says, yeah. My time, recha balmu is just a smell, and smell is nothing. Says the Gemara. My time, recha balmu. V'recha lav milsehi. It's nothing. Says the Gemara, Ovid Levi Uvda Bereish Geluso Bigdi V'Davar Acher. The Gemara never likes to mention the word P-I-G. Davar Acher. So, Maisa Shaya. Somebody threw in, I don't know how it happened exactly, a piece of pork. Maybe somebody did a Russia, Marusha. Maybe the slave over there had a lot of slaves. Threw in a piece of his own. It happens, I saw my cleaning lady once use my toaster oven with her stuff. It happens. So, cleaning lady goes, takes her McDonald's, warms it up in the same oven as the thing. He said it's 100% mutter. It's just a reyach, not a problem. However, Rashi says, don't do it lechatchila. You're not allowed to do it lechatchila. If it happened, you find it lachar ma'isi, you're not going to throw out your carbon pesach. Okay. Meisvei. We got to move here, Rabbi Yisai. Meisvei. Ein tzaylim shnei psachim ke'echad mipnei ataroivis. So here's the picture. Again, you have two carbon pesachs in one oven. You cannot roast them together. Why? So there could be one of two reasons. Either the reason is, היום אתה בא. אתה יודע שהיה כאן 100 איש לפני הקורונה, 100 איש בחדר הזה. עכשיו אנחנו הולכים לפי ההנחיות, רק 5. Rabbi said they're videotaping here for Dirshu. Smile, pretend that you're all excited. All right, I'm telling him this is not what we typically have. We don't typically have 5 people in a Beis Medrash. Come back after Corona. Meisvei ain't tzaylim shnei psachim ke'echad mipnei ataroivis.
He's going to come back himself. He'll join this year.
Now what's the problem? Yeah, Vali's going to come back. What's the problem when you have 2 korbanos like this? No, could somebody think about the problem? What's the problem? Why can't I roast? I'm eating it, you're eating it. What?
You can mess up which one you're...
Oh, because I'm not part of the group. I'm going to eat this carbon that has a little bit of your carbon, and I'm not part of your group. Just like you can't, the klotz kash, you can't give it to the kohen. I can't eat a mashu of your carbon. My love, taroivis tamim, isn't it because the flavors go to one to another? Levi, and Levi says that flavor is nothing, that reach is nothing. La, you missed the boat. Mipnei taroivis gufen. I'm simply concerned that you're going to grab the wrong carbon and run away. That's the problem. There's going to be a switcheroo. Now a goat and a sheep are very, very different. Yet, this is still a concern. And what's the concern? This is a big chiddush. Even though there's a gdi and a tala, even though they're so different, I'm concerned. But if the problem is flavor, what's the difference? A goat and a sheep, or a sheep and a sheep. If one flavor transfers to the other, even a sheep and a sheep, even a goat and a goat, what's afilu? Afilu doesn't add anything that there's a goat here. It's all the same. Afilu gdi v'tala, elo yavis b'teroivis tamim, malik di v'tala, malik di v'gdi. Elo mai al korchem v'nei gufim u'dasur, al taroivis tamim shari. So it comes out that the bottom line is, what's the problem in these two goats, a goat or two sheep, that you might come to flip them around. But not because there's a problem with the flavor. Oh, if there's not a problem with the flavor, who's that a kasha on? Rav, the one who dropped the bomb and ran. He said that there's a problem with flavors here. Oh, you know what the story is? There's no problem with flavor. You know there's no problem with flavor? Because they're in two pots. Two pots? You let it cook a carbon pesach, it's also to cook a carbon pesach in a pot. Why is it also to cook a carbon pesach in a pot? Forget about the Torah says tzli eish. But that's the real reason. Because the heat is coming from the pot and not from the fire. You can't put it in a pot. Says the Gemara, no. This is a big pile of coals between the two. They don't touch each other. It's like two pots. This is what Rav meant to say. This is what the Bryce says. You're not permitted to roast two carbon pesachs together. Why? Because the mixture. My taroivis, what kind of mixture? Taroivis ta'amim. So first Rav says it starts off with there is a problem of flavor, because I hold reicha milsa. Flavor, aroma is a problem. By the way, who do we passing like? Is flavor a problem, not a problem? It's very interesting. Rashi, on this sugya, he keeps on saying who the halach is like, and he says the halach is like Levi. Reicha lav milsa. That's what Rashi says.
With COVID, you don't smell anything.
Reicha lav milsa, it's not a big deal. COVID. All right, taroivis tamim. I feel like there is the like a taroivis tamim, but even if in a situation that there's no flavor mixture, why? Because there's a big giant barrier between them. Also, why? Now there's a second reason. Taroivis guf, and I might grab the wrong carbon. And even if they're so different, one has horns, one has a beard, I don't know after the roasting, but one is a gedi, one is a tle, one is a sheep, we're concerned that you're going to mix it up. Perhaps it's a machlokes tanoim. What's Redios HaPas? Remember the picture? You have this in Eretz Yisrael a lot. They used to make bread like this. They would pop it on the side of the oven. Today they still do lafas like this. Esh tanur. You remove it. So somebody removes a hot bread. And then he places it al pi chavis yain shel truma. Truma, I'm not going to go to the chart. We all know what truma is. The first 2% of your barrels go to the kohen. It's truma. Now we're concerned that the heat of the bread is going to absorb some of the smell of the wine. Here we go again. Is smell something or smell is nothing? Do we consider smell or not? Says the Gemara, Rev Meir oiser v'Rebbe Yehuda matir. Oh, I never went on. What happened? I got knocked off of Zoom? Okay, fine. Rev Meir oiser Rebbe Yehuda matir. Rabbi Yossi, so Reb Meir says it's also why? Because smell, we have to consider smell. Rabbi Yehuda says it's nothing, it's l'chayra. Smell is nothing. Rabbi Yossi is like in between. He says we have to consider smell, but we have to consider also the product. Rabbi Yossi matam shalchitin, it's too tough to absorb. Wheat is too tough. But barley is more absorbent. They could suck in the isser. My love absorb. My love tanoi l'chayr. This is the machlokes. The marsav reicha lav milsi. Marsav reicha milsi. L'chayr. Isn't that the machlokes? One says that we have to be concerned with the smell, and the other says not. Says the Gemara l'levi vadi tanoi. Okay, so Levi is obviously going to have to say that it's machlokes tanoim. He himself is going to hold like Rabbi Yehuda reicha lav milsi. L'Rav name tanoi. So what? According to Rav, it's also machlokes tanoim, and he argues with Rabbi Yehuda. Amalach Rav, the Kuli Amareichel Milsi. No, even here, everybody's going to agree that you have to be concerned with the smell. Lavit Ma'allah Dahi, but look, we already explained this. If you have two things going for you, it's a hot bread and it's a open barrel, so the smell from the wine is going to easily reach the bread. Or because Reichem Milsa, we have to be concerned with the flavor of the smell, and it's also according to everybody. And if the bread is cold and the barrel is completely sealed, we're not concerned. If the bread is hot, one or the other, the bread is hot, the barrel is closed, the bread is cold, just hit that top button. Yeah. Is it? Yeah, no problem. These two animals are like a hot bread and an open barrel. Obviously, they're going to absorb from each other. Memela, I say it's usher. Fine. Rav Yeshaya, an amazing halacha here that's mamish negel l'maisa. Tani Rav Kahana bereder Rav Chinan Osaba pasha foim tzoli batanor. A bread that you bake in a oven that has roasted meat. Also lachlo bekutcha, you're not allowed to eat it together with kutach. Kutach is milchik. Ahi, here's the halacha l'maisa. Ahi binisa, there was a fish. The itva b'hadei bisro. It was cooked together with meat. Rabbi, I remember these words. The fish together with meat. What do we do with that? What do we say? Fish and meat is not a good thing to eat. It's a sakana. Asra, rava, beparzikya, lemechla bekutcha. He said it's also to eat together with milk. Why? Because the fish has meat in it. Even if it has salt. It's not good for your breath. Very interesting. This is the second time Davar Acher is mentioned on this Amud. Davar Acher means a pig, and over here it means tsaras. So I want to tell you a few halachas real quickly before Shabbos. Meat and fish. Here's the sugya. Meat and fish is a sakana. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Ayin Gimel says that if you eat meat, you have to wash your hands before you eat fish. You should make a big hefsek. The Magen Avraham, he always goes to Shitase, the Nishtanu Atfam. Today's generation different. We don't have such a sakana. We don't know what it is exactly. He says, don't worry about washing your hands, but don't eat the two together. What if you cook meat in a pot and then you want to cook fish in it? Is that a problem? Please, not a problem. L'chayra. The Taz says, however, that if a piece of fish falls into your chont, you can't eat the chont. And the Shach says not to be worried about it. And the Chassam Sofer brings a lot of rice that we don't have to be concerned about it. Now, very, very interesting. Do you know that Sfardim, especially if you're Sfardi, you know this. Sfardim don't eat bagels, lox, and cream cheese. The famous halacha. Here, from this Gemara, lox and cream cheese. But you have to have a bagel. You can't just eat lox and cream cheese. You're Israeli, you don't know about it. So, let me tell you real quickly what the problem is and what the halacha is. There's a lot of Sfardim that eat lox and cream cheese. Why? Because the Beis Yosef, only not the Shulchan Aruch, who's the same thing as the Beis Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring this halacha. The Beis Yosef says it's also to eat milk and fish. Now, first of all, look at the sugya. The sugya says mufurish that that's not a problem, milk and fish. It says the only problem is that the basar was cooked together with the fish. That's why you're not allowed to put the fish into milk, because the fish has meat in it. There's no problem of fish and milk. The problem is meat and milk. Okay. The Ashkenazim, like Derma, the Taz, they all say the Beis Yosef made a toast sefer. Why? Because in the halacha where he says that milk and fish is also, he says, look at Kuf Ayin Gimel. You look in Kuf Ayin Gimel, all it says there, you're not allowed to eat meat and fish. It doesn't say anything about milchiks and fish. It's a toast sefer, they say. The Beis Yosef himself made a mistake, sort of, because he wrote it, and he brings a raya. So now, I just want to say one lashon, an unbelievable lashon from the Ramah. We know that the isser of mixing basar b'chalav. Says the Ramah, the Beis Yosef mixed basar b'chalav. Instead of saying the halacha of basar, he wrote by mistake chalav. Very strong lashon. he made a mix of basar v'chalav, and that's why Ashkenazim are not makbid of in fish and milk, and a lot of Sephardim are, because at the end of the day, Marana Beis Yosef writes that you're not allowed to eat milk and fish. Have a wonderful Shabbos. You want to say Shira? Shira ma'alois ma'amakim kol tzicha adinoi. Adinoi shemo b'koli dinoi zach kol shavos d'kol dachanoi. Ma b'noi s'shemo yah adinoi mi'amoid. M'chas t'chol l'manti v'rei. Yisrael negitzon Nafshi d'vorei choldi. Nafshi adinoi m'shemon l'boiker shemon l'boiker. Kesher adinoi gimel chesed. Rabbeim Kedos. This is all Michal Mandelbaum. Savach negam zisrael zam Shira. Al devei mishmor. Bakum ve'elam mishmor. Shto. Bagel zman karibnu ma'aromein. A good Erev Shabbos, everybody.
Who's staying now?
What's Shabbos 8:15, Rabbi Yeshaya? I'm gonna have to go soon. You got it. I know, but I have to go because Dirshu, they're videotaping me. Wish me luck. I'm acting in one of their promotional videos. I have to read the lines. You shut it off? No.
I thought he has charts and he's a good one.
It's still on. YouTube is still running.
Yes, it is. Ellie's very camera shy. He needs good luck wishes.
No, I have to remember all these lines. Look at these lines.
But Ellie, you're not confident in yourself.
I hate this. I don't have a good memory. I have to remember these things. Okay, I'm not listening to you guys. Yeah, okay, great.
Wait, should we turn off YouTube?
In a minute or two, yeah.
I don't mean to bother you. Now you turn on.
The BPP keep. They said that it's might go for a long time. Where's the BPP? This guy. Right. Okay. Rabbi Yeshaya, good Shabbos to everybody. I'm going to run. Good Shabbos. Take care. Who is that? Oh, Gedalia. Gedalia. Sorry to hear about your loss. We love your grandfather. We said Tehillim for him. I'm sure it's a tremendous, tremendous loss. Should have an Achama B'Karav. I got to run, Rabbi Yeshaya. Oh, I don't have the lines for Hebrew. Hashem Yirachem. Ken.